Hello, everybody, and welcome to Horsehead Weekly, Week 8. We are officially at the halfway point of the season. If you don't include the playoffs, if you include the playoffs, then that happens after this week. But hey, we're past halfway there, and so let's get going. Let's start looking at what happened last week. Last week we had myself and Doug, and even though Doug didn't put up a great week, as a couple people, didn't really put up great weeks. No one really over 120 except for two teams, just because of the fact I think there are a couple buys last week, and I think that kind of took some people out. But yeah, so we have so I ended up falling to Doug. There's gonna be some weird, awkward pauses while I'm doing this today, just because I'm also trying to watch the Miami game. Um, So just be aware of that. So then Matt, one of those two people who put up really big numbers, that's Matt S, taking out Dave, knocking him down a little bit lower on the ranks. James continues his winning streak, going up to 3-4 now by taking out Malcolm. That's including the fact that Malcolm had Zeke last week, put up 40 points. I don't know. There's got to be something going on there. I will look into that later, maybe. Tyler ends up getting handed his second loss of the season, his first loss since week 1 up against Nick, falling to Jerry in a very close game. Speaking of close games, Jess narrowly does not get the comeback. She was down by a bit, and then it was touch and go there for a minute for Mike, but Jess ends up falling anyways, despite the fact that Cooper ended up putting up almost 40 himself. So, I'm just saying, if you put up almost 40 points, apparently that's a bad thing for your team. Who knew? And then Matt M ends up taking out Nick because he's one of the second team that put up really big numbers last week. So let's move on to the standings. And here we have the regular standings, but they don't really tell enough of the picture. I mean, yeah, you see how the divisions are lined up and whatever's going on there. But this is the real picture that people are going to start caring about now. The playoff standings. You have we're going to call the AFC, that is Skullhouse and Kathy's Kids. For reasons that I don't know, I call them the AFC. And that is Doug has the bye currently, as he's the only team in the conference rather, with a 5-2 record. The other division winner at this point would be Malcolm, and then the wild card would be Jerry. And it's a pretty clear cut there with the two S brothers and myself just kind of rounding it out. No one's eliminated from the playoffs yet. No one's eliminated from a bye yet. We're still a long way from there. It was only 3-game difference now from the top to the bottom. So, still a lot of wiggle room. But then you look on the NFC side, it's basically a mirror image. You have Tyler as a lone 5-2, 2 4-3s, one from the other division, one from, I think the second one is also from the other division. I think because the M brothers have Mike in their division. And then Nick, Jess, and Dave rounding out the NFC. So I'm going to keep this going, and Miami's making me sad. I'm just going to keep this going right now and just keep updating this every single week. And as people start to get eliminated, then I'll, include that and other little tidbits along the way as I decide to expand on this section of the slideshow. Well, look at that, the Eliminator. How nice of you to show up, Eliminator. I was eliminated 2 weeks ago, but I'm still going to keep this going because this is a lot of fun. And we are now down to 6 teams. And that's going to go even less short of Tyler, Jerry, and Matt S. all getting a strike, at which point then this is going to be over really quickly. I didn't expect there to be 4 strikes given out for so long. I thought it would be like 4, maybe 5 weeks, because there would be some lower teams. No, we have a lot of parity in this league right now, and including Tyler, who finally got his first strike. So let's look at Week 7 in particular. Tyler got his first strike, Malcolm was eliminated, and James got his second strike, which leaves Matt S., Jerry, and Tyler as the only people not worried this week about getting eliminated, with Doug, Nick, and James all worried about themselves. If one person gets eliminated this week, then we will be down in the 2 strike threshold for the following week, and if 3 people get eliminated, that means Doug, Nick, and James all end up getting a strike next week. Then it'll be Matt S., Jerry, and Tyler, 1 strike a week from week 9 on until there's only 1 lone survivor, which is really, really cool if you ask me. Unlike what just happened in the Miami game, which looks like a Baltimore touchdown. So moving on to the waiver wire for this week. Not a ton of great pickups this week. I did like Jalen Richard, but apparently he went super early on. And then uh, with $15 to Matt S, Malcolm ended up putting in an $11 bid, which ended up coming up a little short. Jerry and Nick fought over Ted Ginn, with Jerry ended up getting him. I ended up losing out to Nick for Fat Rob, and then just a couple other players that got picked up for various amounts of money. Juju looks like he's actually doing pretty good this week with Martavis Bryant inactive because of the whole, making people upset thing. Pretty sure he stole Juju's bike, but hey, who knows how that's going to work out. And then, so that's basically what's going on there. And this brings us to how much fab people have left. We have a couple of big spenders over here. We have Jerry, James, Jess, and Doug. I look at them as kind of like the big spenders. A couple people in the middle range of the budgets, and then we have Tyler and Nick. Tyler has $10. We can still make a play at somebody who's like decent, and Nick has $1 left, which you'll have to spend very, very frivolously on a single player who he really, really wants. And other than that, then he is out of money. He's just broke. So hopefully, if Nick needs anything over the next couple weeks after the trade deadline, he can find it cheap. This is a cool little thing that happened this week. So, after waivers processed, Ty, or rather T.Y. Hilton and Christian McCaffrey were on Doug's team. And then after that happened, Nick traded for them for Miller and Funches. At which point, Matt S. then traded with Nick for them, and only them, in all these trades, for Dez and Jalen Richard. At which point, then Mike said, oh, no, I want a part of this T.Y. and McCaffrey nonsense. So he traded Buck Allen and Golden Tate for them. So that's a very interesting setup. That it just happened to be that it was just 2 for 2s all the way down, and 4 different teams had their hands on T.Y. Hilton and Christian McCaffrey over the course of a day. I just thought it was neat. Moving on. A look back at the draft, you say? Well, okay, cool. So how do the teams rank in the draft and how they drafted? Okay, so Jerry was the best. After a bunch of research and me, going through a bunch of stuff, this is what I ended up coming up with. This is the special segment of the week if you haven't noticed. But yeah, I put a lot of work into this, trying to figure out like how best to rank them and what if you had a first round pick and you took them on your team, then how many points is that worth versus everything else? It's kind of arbitrary, but I always think it's kind of cool just to get a look back and see how your team did in the drafting phase. And here we have. Jerry on top. He had 2 first-round picks, a second, a third, 2 fourth-round picks, and a sixth. That's worth a lot of points, 61 to be exact. And then as you go down the line, you can see all the other figures to be able to figure out where you are in there. You have to remember for people like, let's say myself, I picked Dalvin Cook and OBJ. Both of them probably would be going in the first round if they weren't hurt. But so that looks bad. That reflects poorly on me as my 38. But they could have been first, second round pet talent. You don't really know what they are. Same thing with Mike and everybody else who lost somebody. But so let's take a look at how that breaks down, because I actually, to come up with these numbers, made up a redraft of this season. So if today, before the Ravens-Dolphins game, we sat down and we redrafted everybody, what I would have as not my exact order, because I wasn't going to sit down and do the exact order, but just, where I think people would go. And very quickly you see people like Kareem Hunt, Todd Gurley, DeAndre Hopkins, Leonard Fournette, first-round draft picks that weren't drafted in the first round. They were drafted much later on. And yeah, of course, you're going to see my pets like A.J. Green. I think he's the third best non-quarterback, non-IDP player in the league. Come at me, bro. It's just how I feel. And, that's just how it's going to go. So when you look at... So we can, scroll through here a little bit. And you can see, just for start, you see, Matt S. had 2 top 6 picks when he took AJ Green and Todd Gurley in his first two picks. They ended up actually both being top 6 value in my opinion. Nick got a steal, absolutely robbed people. When in the 4th round he ended up taking Kareem Hunt. 4th round Kareem Hunt. You got 3rd round Jerry taking Hopkins. But let's scroll down a little bit, and you're going to start seeing some other things like, uh, you know, of course this is considering that Zeke might get suspended if Monday comes around and the ruling is he plays the whole season. Instead of Zeke being down here, I'm going to have Zeke probably like up here ahead of Kareem Hunt, probably ahead of Evans, probably ahead of AJ Green. He'll probably be 3rd. So don't get upset, Malcolm, at me. I'm not throwing shade saying Zeke's the 15th best player in the NFL right now or 22nd or whatever like that. But yeah, there's just some really interesting things because early on you're going to see a lot of green because you're going to be seeing a lot of players who did really, really well. And this is all in the Google Doc, so if you want to just go to the Google Doc and look, cool, go to the Google Doc and look at it and see how everything looks. It's all sortable the same way the other draft thing was, so you can go and play in it and see, I picked really, really well. I picked really, really poorly. But yeah, you have, like your, Mark Ingram was a great value pick. Stephon Diggs, great value pick by me. Mark Ingram was great by Jerry. And, you can just kind of scroll through, and then eventually you're going to start seeing really big red numbers. Mike, I'm sorry, he's hurt, but that's a big red number. Eddie Lacy, Nick, you took him in the 6th round with your first pick in the 6th round, the first overall pick in the 6th round. 58th overall, you picked Eddie Lacy. He has just been hot garbage all season. Who are some other people who ended up being like super, super bad? Oh, like these guys, the dead crew. Your OBJ, your Dalvin Cook, Allen Robinson, Eifert, Marshall, Sproles. And then I also did the same thing down here in the bottom with the quarterbacks. I didn't really want to like rank them because, different people take different quarterbacks at different times, blah, 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 blah. So this is kind of how I had it. Brady 1, Breeze 2, because, Rodgers is dead. But this is how, Tom Brady was taken 2nd. He's number 1. Breeze is number 2. But you can see some really good stuff like Andrew Luck's been not really playing. Eli Manning not playing well at all. Carr, you just take a look. I don't know what else to really say. I just want to show off one particular owner, and that's Jerry, because he lit it up. He got, if you take away the one homer pick he made, because, he's a Miami fan, and, Ajayi, he could still be really, really good. Who knows? But looking at this team, it's crazy the value he got. He just always had value picks, in and out, in and out, in and out. So just good for him, doing great things with the draft. So yeah, this is just a cool little thing. I don't really want to talk about it for too long because you guys are gonna come in here and play with it and be like, oh, how did who's got that really good team? Tyler's got a good team. Let's see how he drafted. Oh, he kind of had some some picks that didn't really go great, with the Lynch pick and a couple other people, but he traded well. And oh, look at these players. These players are a little bit ahead. He did some good picks too. Woodhead got hurt, but he traded him away. Lynch he traded away before the value dropped out on him. So he did really good. Blah blah blah. I'm gonna move on because I'm starting to bore myself with my talking, so it means you guys are probably bored too. So that's how the teams rank. That's a little tool you can look at in the spreadsheets. And let's move on to the rankings. And this, of course, it's the season. This is the season to be spooked. So it is the Halloween Spooktacular. And in the bottom, we have the non-spoop class. It's just a cute little sheep. And we're going to start off with Jess. Jess remains at the bottom. She had a good week last week, but it was mostly on the back of 2 players. Cooper put up almost 40, and then Reed put up 22. Take those 2 players out of the lineup and place them with reasonable output for what you're going to expect. She had another really bad week. I mean, she got like 4 points out of her running backs. I mean, that's not very good. Hold on a second. Did I not include? I did not put them in. Okay, cool. after this, I'm going to have to go look at incentives because I did those up for you guys. Um, cool. But yeah, I mean, I still don't really like her team. Her running backs are really just not very good. Demaryius Thomas is, averaging less than 10 points per game. Um, I mean, Cooper's averaging more than 10 points per game because he just put up 40 and one. I don't know. I'm just not really a big fan of her team. I don't know what else to say. Good luck getting your team better. I don't know why you picked up Cameron Wake as your defensive lineman and then didn't put him in your lineup. That's something that you should probably. I mean, you had all day. You had at least all day today to do it since waivers processed. I don't know who your opponent is, but that's something you have to talk about, Jess, because that was a mistake. Moving on, we have Dave at number 11. He moves down one spot after another poor showing on his part. You got Jarvis Landry. You're not trading him to me. I don't like that, just because I want him, dude. But anyways, you have a pretty decent team. You're really starting to turn your team around, and I feel like this week you might be able to come out and really do some good things. You might be able to show me that your team is better than this. But when your last three games you're averaging 94 points per game, I really can't move you that farther up. I think you are one of the only two teams that are under 100 points per game, you and Jess. So I gotta leave you down there, dude. I'm sorry, but maybe in a week or two, if you start grinding your way back up, I'll be willing to make a deal. Next up, we have myself. I put in a really poor showing again last week. Yeah, I had a backup in for quarterback. My quarterback is one of my studs on my team, but at the same time, Martin put up 9 points. He had played a good defense. He played against good defense. Mixon and Green didn't do that well. Played a good defense. I can make excuses all up and down the line, but at this point, I just kind of have to believe that my team's just in that bottom tier. And until I can do something about it and make some deals, or my team actually turns itself around, we'll see. I mean, basically what I'm doing this weekend is I'm just going to watch the games and see what happens. And if my team ends up continuing to look like hot garbage, like it kind of looked last week and the week before that, then expect me to just be tearing it apart, selling off pieces. Yeah, you guys are going to love the deals you're going to be getting from me. But anyways, that's me at number 10, and that's it. And now we have the B class, which is a little bit of spoop. Like that's supposed to be Ronald McDonald, but it's a little bit of spoop. And we're going to start off with Nick. Nick drops down one position this week. He only has 110 points per game over the last three. And, that's not great. It's definitely getting up there, but the averages the last couple of weeks have been sitting around almost 120. So you got to really pick up your game there, dude. And I hate I hate having you to rank because every week I come in and I'm like, all right, let's rank it. Let's see what the rankings. How's Nick gonna move? Oh, he's got a completely different team than the previous week. Cool. I mean, yeah, I don't really know what to do with your team. I mean, you have a lot of very good players, but you also have giant holes. Like at your flex, you're playing Kenny Stills. At your running back, you're playing Bilal Powell. I'm not a fan of those two players in those positions, at least not right now. I think if Stills proves himself after tonight, then yeah, no, he can definitely be a flex play. But at the same time, I'm not really sold on him yet, and I'm kind of iffy. Plus, you played him in the flex, which means now you don't have any flexibility. If Dez gets hurt tomorrow or Allen gets hurt tomorrow, now you gotta scramble to get another wide receiver. Just little things like that. Just a little tip. Always have the flex if you're having three people with the same position play and you're locking them in. Have it be whoever plays last just in case something happens. But anyways, yeah, so I don't know, dude. I'm just not a fan of a couple of your positions. I do like the Freeman, Allen, Dez combo in the middle there, but your quarterback and one of your running backs, your flex, your tight end, it just, I don't know, I'm moving on. To Malcolm. Now, Malcolm, your team is also putting up 110 points per game, but I had to move you down because your Cam just does not look that good. Your tight end position is basically praying that Clay comes back soon. You do have a good flex coming up. You do have Aaron Jones. You're going to start plugging in there. And I think that'll be a really good thing for you. And I also really like the fact that you have Kenny Galladay or Jordan Matthews or any number of other people to play in that flex spot for you, including Duke Johnson. I think you have a lot better team than eighth. It's just when I look at your team and you still have some big holes in it, and I also don't like some of the, I just like some of the other teams a little bit better. And I also like the fact that you have, it's also scary with Zeke still. And again, if Monday rolls around and he's going to play the whole season, then you're set. But until then, I'm leaving you at eighth, as I see somebody get suplexed and absolutely demolished. That's Landry. Yeah, he bounces back up. That's good. Matt M, 125 points over your last three. That's really good, and I had to move you up from 11th. I couldn't leave you down there any longer. I believe in Carson Wentz. I believe in Zach Ertz. I believe in Mark Ingram now. I love him. I think he's a top 10 guy rest of the season. Easy at this point. I mean, when I look at rest of season rankings, I honestly look at it and I say, there's 9 running backs, and you have one of them in that like pristine top 9. That's like definitely the top 9. But then when you start going down through the rest of your team, we have, I mean, yeah, you have a lot of people on bye, but none of them are great. I mean, you're going to start Orleans Darkwa or James White every week at flex. You're going to have to pick between McKinnon and Murray every single week to figure out which one's the actual guy who's going to be good. Jones and Jeffrey and I mean, who else do you have at wide receiver? Rashard Matthews? Those are your only 3 wide receivers? That's not great. I mean, I know you've been trying to make deals. I've seen you putting in the work. You're trying to cut a deal to get another wide receiver, to get a wide receiver that you can like feel comfortable starting, as Matt Moore gets crushed. But yeah, so that's what's going on right now with your team. Sorry, dude. And we're gonna move on to Doug. Doug, your team is scary. Like, speaking of being spoopy, starting from the top, moving your way down, it looks like a great team. You got Russell Wilson, Thompson. I gotta buy into him at this point. He seems to be consistent every single week. Lamar Miller, who I think is going to be pretty good rest of season. He's in contention to be in that he's not in that top 9 that I talked about earlier, but he's in that definite like next. I think he's a lower end of the next tier, maybe. And you got Diggs, who I think, when he's healthy, he's going to be really, really good. But then you got Funches and Cook and Riddick. Murray hasn't been that good. Jordy hasn't been that good. Yeah, you got Evan Ingram to go in for Cook next week, but you got Fitz, who's throwing to him. One of the worst quarterbacks in the league, if not the worst quarterback in the league at this point. I mean, I'm just looking at your team, and you have like 4. Yeah, I'll give you 5. Evan Ingram's solid. You have 5 solid players. It's just the rest of your team is kind of iffy at best, and I want to see how your team solidifies and how it really works on itself moving forward. So I know you moved up 1 from last week, but it's more everyone else fell more than you actually rose up at all. And finishing out this tier, we have Mike. Just missed moving up in the tier to the next tier, but I don't know. I had to do something with you, and this is where you're gonna be, because I don't know if Jameis can continue to put up 30-point games. I mean, if this is how Jameis plays with a broken shoulder, then someone should just keep punching his shoulder. But the rest of your team, like I really like. Jason Witten is defying logic, playing really, really great. I think Marlon Mack's taking over the job slowly but surely. You got Evans, who's great. You got Hunt, who's in that top tier. McCaffrey, who's in the, maybe not the next tier, but at least the tier after that. Not in that top 9, but he's definitely, a running back 2 at worst, if not a wide receiver or running back 1 or running back 2 in half PPR. As I called, he did come on after the New England game, like I said I was going to. I just wish I held on to him because I made I gotta make a special section at some point of just all the garbage trades that I've made over the course of the season. Yeah, and you got a pretty good defense too. So I really like your team, and you moving down was more of you getting passed by other people, not you actually like getting worse as a team. But yeah, I like your team, dude. So keep up the good work. And now, that's spoopy. Oh no. Oh, he's dooting. We gotta move on. We gotta move on. Can't get caught in the doots. James. James, 127 points over the last 3 games. He has won his last 3 games after losing his first 4, I think. I mean, he's making a run. I think he's doing it with players too. When you look at them, that you don't think are supposed to be as good as they are. Besides Le'Veon Bell, but everyone else on his team, he's got Chris Hogan, who's a top 10 wide receiver at the moment. He's got Alex Smith, who's the #1 quarterback in the NFL. Who saw that coming? He's just got a team of people. Like if there was a garbage rocket, which was Mike's team last year, this is the garbage rocket for this year. No offense to Mike, I know that's your team name, but this is a garbage. This is a team of just rubbish from top to bottom. And then besides Le'Veon Bell, and it's absolutely crushing it right now. And you know what? Good for you, dude. You found the pieces that no one else believed in. You put them together, and you're making them work for you. Keep up the great work, dude. You're killing it. Just, I love it, dude. I love it. Next, we have Matt S. Moves up a couple positions from last week. 124 points over the last 3. That's really, really good, dude. What do we got? We got so his team is one where it's more on the potential of some of the players. Like you got to believe that Julio's turned it around. If I think Calvin Benjamin's coming around. You got to buy into Buck Allen at this point. He's doing what he's doing. Carlos Hyde is doing really, really good. When he's playing, and I think he's finally put away all the hate, and he's finally figured out that he is the guy in San Francisco. He's got Kelsey, who's one of those top. There's probably 4 tight ends in the league right now that you can look at and say, this is a guy I want on my team. He's going to give me great production. Week in and week out, he's going to be great. You got Gronk at top, then Ertz, Kelsey, and Ingram. I think those are your top 4 right now, and they're in a they're up in the stratosphere away from everybody else. And I think he's got one of them, so that's always great. He's got Todd Gurley. I didn't even realize he was on the bench. Golden Tate's going to be great when he gets back. So just looking around this team, I'm just thinking this is a really, really good position that he's in, and he's one of the teams that I think can make a really deep run. And next up we have the 7 Spoop 9 Me, because that is one spoopy guy. Look at him. He's got a pumpkin head. He's dancing in the graveyard. What is that? That's crazy. Crazy, dude. And we start off with Tyler. Tyler finally falls out of that top spot because, well, he lost. He got dethroned. He lost to the guy who I put in first last week. But when you look at his team, I think it was more of a stumble of his team, and he's gonna make a comeback. I mean, the guy's gonna have Kirk Cousins, who, if he ends up playing as well as everyone thinks Kirk Cousins gonna, I think he's gonna be great. Or he's gonna be like really good. He's gonna be top 5, top 8, somewhere in that range. But then he's got Howard, Gordon, and Fournette as his running backs. He's going to have Tyreek Hill and Cooks as his wide receivers, who are both looking phenomenal at this point in the season. So that's his starters, with Gronk in there too, and then the #1 defensive end, the #1 safety, and a top end linebacker. I don't know why Zach Brown's only 10th ranked, but he's definitely a lot better than 10th. Yeah, this is just crazy looking at his team. It's just stacked. But he did lose to Jerry, and Jerry also has a really stacked team. I think Ajayi is going to slowly begin to, as defenses get tired because they've been playing week in and week out, I think Ajayi is going to slowly get better and better and better. Rivers is going to continue to be decent, but he also has on his bench Marcus Mariota, who's on a bye, and if he can come back healthy and strong next week, man, that guy, I think he's got a pretty decent schedule too. So you're going to have a really good quarterback in there. Everyone knows how good McCoy is. Nuke has been absolutely phenomenal. Crabtree, he's doing his thing, running out there, catching the balls from Carr because Cooper hasn't been that good. But hey, if Cooper's coming on, maybe that means Crabtree takes the back seat. Could be iffy. Brait is in that next tier behind those top four. I don't know. I think he's got that really sick defensive group of. Where is the other defensive player? Did he? Oh, Telvin Smith, Joey Bosa, and Rashard Jones. I think this is another absolutely stunningly good group of defensive players. And I think what we're really seeing in this last two slides is having a lot of great skill offensive players is great and all, but when you have those three other positions that are able to put up more points than everybody else because you have those top end defensive players, that's three positions that goes a long way. That could be up to 10, 15 points a week that you're getting over the other guy because you have these better players. And that's just great for you. So that's my list of the top people. And before we get into this week's matchups, I want to actually move back to the incentives because I didn't get to go over them, and I just want to show people what they are right now. We got Doug still at the top of the quarterbacks, with James right behind him still, and Jess kind of lingering behind them. Those two, just kind of seeing what's going on. Over in the running back land, it's still a two-horse race between Tyler and Matt S. With Tyler, I think he's going to start pulling away soon, but I mean, Matt S is also still going to just put up a really, really good fight as well. Over in wide receiver land, we have Jerry, Mike, myself, and Malcolm and James all kind of fighting up near the top, with Matt S and Nick within striking distance. That's going to be a really fun fight to see how that goes moving forward. I gained a bunch of ground on everybody last week, but, we'll see if I can keep it up. We'll do tight end now too, just because it's... Don't be a jerk, Google. Come on, just show me. At tight ends, it's, again, I think another two-horse race between Matt M and Tyler. So that's a really good fight going on right there with, I think Tyler lost some ground last week and actually lost the lead last week to Matt M. So that's really quite something there. I don't think any major lead changes happened last week between anybody else. No, not there, at least. Defensive line, James is just ahead of Matt S, with Mike and Jerry also in the fight. At linebacker, Jerry's really only has to deal with Nick and Dave, but he's got a decent cushion there. And at defensive back, Jerry is in the lead with a decent cushion on a couple different players. So that's all that's going on with that. Just wanted to make sure you guys saw all that. So now for this week, I'm playing up against Mike in a do or die match. The other do or die match is Dave and Doug. So not great places to be when you're do or die. Playing up against Mike and Doug, who are both very good. But hey, we'll see what happens. It's going to be pretty scary. And then we have a couple other games going on that are just kind of middle of the road teams fighting each other. We have the Matt Bowl this week. Between the two Matts, Nick James, Jess, Jerry, also playing. And then the game of the week, Mac and Tyler. This is going to be the game to watch because they're both very good teams. I just think they're really good teams. It's going to be really fun. It could have been the Matt Bowl, but I made it these guys. I think it's going to be a really close match, really fun to watch. And with that, I will see you all next week. I think that's all I needed to say. I'm going to get back to watching some football. So hopefully this gets done for halftime. I think that'd be a pretty cool little treat for you guys. So yeah, I think I got everything I needed to talk about. So I will see you guys next week. Bye-bye.